what's the importance of talking about this, of amplifying awareness with mental health from your point of view?
Oh, it's massive. From a player's point of view, there's so many different pressures, that a player experiences. Both internally at the club, from media, family, friends, and you have to be able to have a space and a network that you can talk to, talk about any problems you might have, because you're under the microscope all the time. So you've got to make sure, your mindset's and you're in the right frame of mind to not only perform well on the weekend, but turning up each and every day, because your performance on the weekend is linked to how you train each and every day. And if you're 5-10% off because your mindset's not there, you're not in the right mind frame, then that's going to really affect your performance on the field. And I think as a player and as a senior player now, I think every player has a role in trying to help others in your team as well. It's not only about speaking up when you have problems, but trying to see little signs of other players and ask if they're doing okay, because particularly younger players or guys who still might not be comfortable with speaking up if they have any issues, being able to just let them know you are there to talk to them, you're there for a support network, can be the difference between them opening up or them bottling it in and, it just sort of going on for a longer period. And
have you noticed an evolution? It might not have been that long ago where if you were saying, I'm not feeling that good, it might have been like, well, what do you want about? That's not tough. Has the conversation changed from a player's point of view, do you think?
Oh, definitely. I think definitely over the last 5 years, I think across the game and sport in general and society in general, I think it's definitely changed the perception of being able to speak up when you aren't, feeling well mentally, because I think it's the importance of, your mindset and how you are mentally is linked to, obviously, it as important or if not more important than your physical health. And I mean, people have no problems putting their hands up when they're injured or their physical health, and when they need assistance with that. I think the shift is now to, and has been getting a lot better, is to put your hand up and ask for help when you're not really there from the mental side of things. I know, particularly from my point of view and the point of view here at the Tigers, unfortunately, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, we lost a young kid who took his own life, and that was sort of, for me, a big turning point, because you always sort of ask yourself, could I have done more? Could I have asked if he's okay? Would that have made a difference? And, a lot of the players here have sort of shifted our mindset from then on in saying, what, we need to make sure players know we're there for each other. And, you need to speak up when you aren't feeling, you're not in the right headspace, or you have problems at home, or you're not, you're struggling in some way, because all it might do is talking to someone about it, just getting it off your chest, and that might be all it takes, or it might take having to, do other things, but just getting off your chest and being able to talk to someone about it. And I think that's a big shift in sport and society in general, that people are more comfortable to do that now.
A shift for the better.
Yeah.
Todd, what about from your perspective? So we're hearing a coach talk about 1%ers, body and mind. Can you break that down for us from where you sit and what you know?
Yeah, totally. I think from a 1%er point of view, like when you don't know what someone's morning has been like if they get to the gym, or you don't know what their evening's like, you only see them for a certain amount of time from a training point of view. So focusing on sleep, nutrition, technology, and then also focusing on just sitting with yourself and breathing. I think there's a lot of technology and devices out there that can distract us at the moment. And just looking at the real simple things like getting enough sleep, so 7 to 8 hours a night, getting enough water, so minimum 2 to 3 litres a day, looking at talking and having a conversation with someone rather than not, direct messaging or on Messenger or on any sort of social media channel. I think that's a really big thing, is to actually have a conversation with someone and give them the opportunity to talk to someone like we're doing now. And then look at your nutrition as well, so eating wholesome foods and sort of not looking at processed foods and sugary foods. I think those little 1%ers is everything that we can all control. And it comes from, the way you're brought up, and hopefully the way that you're educated through the school system as well, to look at, really enhancing those 1%ers.
Grant, what about from where you sit? How powerful is sport as a medium and a platform to have what is like a really seriously important societal conversation?
Yeah, look, I think the sporting codes and leadership like we've been getting from Wests Tigers is just worth so much, because, you can have doctory types like me telling you should do this or you should do that, but to get the leadership from people in the club that really resonates with people out there. And we've seen a huge change in attitudes. You know, one of the tough things I think for, you know, young guys, we're expecting them to be courageous and, you know, get out there and give everything to the game. But at the same time, you know, there's a sort of a message, oh, well, if you say you're having a mental health issue, is that a weakness? Or, you know, can we trust you? What does that mean? And so we call this stigma, and I think that that's really been changing, particularly over the last 5 or 10 years. And part of that is leadership from the clubs like this.
Michael, a lot of focus, I think, naturally from the media and fans is on players, how they behave, how they perform. But we know too that like coaches are under enormous stress. Can you give us a bit of an insight like into your life and mind and body and the things that you do, techniques that you've learnt that become part of your mental health routines and mental health checks?
I've done a lot in this space. You know, over the years, I guess, the different organisations that I've worked with, you know, through meditation and different skills that you can actually use to learn how to use your breathing to actually clear your mind. I think they're the big pieces for a lot of people to understand now. It might be meditation, a bit of yoga, those sorts of different things. But I think society's changing, you know, and the different pressures that young men have and young ladies have now in the world with, you know, the social media. I think the biggest thing I've found over time is just the relationships you have with your people around you. You know, put your phones down. Talk, find out where they're at. And, you know, Chris just spoke about it, that the fact that, you know, you've got senior players and, you know, I've got coaching staff and everyone's got families at home and, you know, everyone goes through a different pressure, I guess, at some stage before they come to work, whether or not it's the baby that's been up all night crying and, you know, they've had a hard time. But you've got to be able to find out where people are at when they walk in your doors. And I think they're the little things that, for coaches as well, to be able to have people in your organisation to be able to talk about it. Because one thing I've learned in this space is that we're all after the same thing. We all want to be successful, and everyone sees that in a different light, but it's being able to look after your family. So I guess being able to talk about those things with your peers, and the best part of an environment, in a sporting environment, is you've got teammates. And you've got to utilise those people because, you know, I've got some people that have got a great experience in the game, like Chrissy, who's been around for a long time. Young guys, they're trying to work out how to handle those pressures when they first walk in the door. So it's being able to use the people around you to best work through the madness of life now. And I think that's a big part of what we need to make sure we concentrate on is get away the phones and the social stuff and just talk to each other. And, you know, I've seen our senior group grow, so many young men coming through into the sporting space, so it's a big part of what we do.
What little things do you do personally? Like you talked about the breathing. Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? What can you tell us about what you do?
I do a little bit of those sorts of things, but I'm fortunate I've got a family at home and I just really enjoy my family time.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to think we've got a very strong family part about the club, which we're always trying to grow, but I think the family is your key, that I can go home to my family and enjoy all the little things there, and then when I come back, and the team is a family in itself.
Yeah.
So to be able to sit down and watch the highs and the lows of a football team is that you are going to face a tough period at some stage in a game of footy or off the field and those sorts of things, but it's how you come together. And that's the piece that I really enjoy doing, and, you know, you hear about other people's issues and, you know, I guess you use those sometimes to make sure that you understand what you actually have.
Yeah.
We're pretty fortunate.
Chris, what about you? Like, we practice things in sport to get better at, you know, whatever skill you need to play your sport. What do you practice to be better in terms of mental health?
Well, I think for me personally, it's probably something I've sort of gone through recently, having a pretty severe sort of facial injury and going through a bit of a mental roller coaster. Is for me, it's about identifying when you are in that headspace, because you're not always going to be feeling your best. Your mood's going to be up and down. Identifying when you are in a headspace, why that is, and then focusing on what you can control. A lot of the times you're in that space, you have no control over some of the things that are getting you in that headspace. So I found if I focus on the things I actually can control, and that's my behaviours and actions, and might be obviously my sleep, nutrition, exercise, as Toddy said, I found that to be a massive one. So for me, I was 6 weeks after my injury where I couldn't do any exercise, and for me that was probably the first time since I debuted 14 years ago where I'd gone 6 weeks with no exercise at all. So I never really understood. I knew the benefits of exercise for your mental health space and your mood and your energy, and I knew the benefits even in the off season if I went 2 weeks not exercising. But having that period where I couldn't do anything at all, 6 weeks of surgeons saying nothing, I really saw how much exercise can help you
Yeah.
the benefits, because that was obviously going through a lot of other things, but not being able to exercise and have the energy that exercise can provide you really made me realise how beneficial that was. So I had to find other, in those 6 weeks, I had to find other avenues to be able to get myself and my mindset right. So for me, it was about the things I can control, and that's spending time with family, being a good husband, being a good father to my young daughter, and trying to set an example for them. And just those little things, the 1%, as Toddy mentioned, that you can do, that you have control over, and you can constantly do, because, as I said, there's plenty of things that you have no control over, which are going to, the pressures that are going to continually try to bring you down. So for me, that's, what I, try to always relate back to. What can I do that I can control? What can I do that I can control? And, it's those behaviours and actions.
Are there any practices that you have? Like, do you meditate? Is it like about mindfulness, about visualisation, breathing?
Yeah, a lot of all that. So particularly when I am back now playing, and for a long time now, visualisation I think is a big part of performance. The more you visualise your performance and how you're going to perform on the field, it just becomes second nature once you get out there. Definitely, I find meditation very useful if I feel very stressed at night and I'm overthinking, and my personality is one that tends to overthink things and always analysing things. So to get my mind to stop racing so I can get to sleep, I find that very useful. And again, going through this tough period, I found when I was down, just getting things out, whether that's speaking to my support network, whether that's close family, friends, my teammates, or even if it's just writing down what I'm feeling at the time, I can get it out and move on with it. I found that really very, very useful for me. Having that, being able to get it down, and if that didn't work, again, speaking to my family, friends, and particularly my teammates, I found that helped so much, because while they weren't going through the same injury that I was going through, they'd been through similar injuries and similar pressures. They understood the environment, so just having them as support really helped me be able to overcome those things and come back.
Todd, I hope you like some of what you're hearing here.
Yeah, totally.
How important is it to switch off? Because just listening to these guys, you could be obsessed to the point of just never sleeping. You need to watch opposition, whatever, stress about your performance, your nutrition.
Yeah.
What about that moment every day when we just need to go, forget all that and switch off? Like, what do you recommend and almost counsel people to do?
Both the boys talked about meditation, and that's something that I've brought into my practice as well. So just from a daily life, so 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. Naturally, our bodies get a serotonin dip at 3 p.m. most days, and when we wake up, it's a nice way to start the day. But just learning to sit with yourself and understand, what's happened in that past day or what's about to come on board, and just put that aside and just focus on yourself and focus on your breath. That's a really nice way to push all the problems aside that may not need to be answered straight away. And it also gives you a nice way to focus on anything that's coming up that really needs your attention. So I think it's really important to, sit with yourself and just not get caught up in everything that you need to get caught up in, because you find yourself probably doing 10% of a million different things and not doing 100% of something really well. So for me, it's meditation. I've been doing that a lot, and just trying to get outdoors with my training, whether it's cold or hot, or doesn't matter what the weather is doing at that time. It's just always a good thing to get in touch with nature and sort of get out and do that. So they're the two things I've sort of really looked at in the past sort of 18 months to 2 years to improve it.
Can meditation make athletes better? Coaches better?
Well, we certainly know there's quite a lot of research now done on meditation, and it's very popular. And we at Beyond Blue actually review all the different treatments. We have a guide called Treatments That Work, because there's lots of different things you can do. And there's certainly evidence that meditation can help with stress management and even some of the mental health conditions like anxiety and depression. So, a lot of good things about it. Also good for physical health. Helps blood pressure, really is very good at just sort of revving your body down. And these guys are all pushing really hard. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is, and some of the guys having a listen, elite players, these guys at the top of the game, there's a lot of psychology going on. Like, it doesn't just happen, it's not all physical. There's a lot of sort of understanding your own mind and knowing what your little warning signs are and knowing what works for you.
Tell us, while we're with you, Grant, like we've heard a bit about Chris's insight with the really direct experience here at the Wests Tigers. What are signs that we can look out for? Sometimes we're just almost hit blind when someone's in a really bad way. What can we look out for and do?
This is a really sensitive issue, obviously. Suicide, unfortunately, is still pretty common in Australia, you know, more than the road toll. Mainly men, a lot of young men. So, you know, we take it really seriously, and it's a bit of a balance, right? Because we're not asking people, the public out there, to be psychologists and to take responsibility for everyone, which they can't, you know. But on the other hand, there are things that you can do. There are signs that you can look out for. So if you notice one of your colleagues or your friends or one of your players is not being themselves, you know, like they might be withdrawing or getting very aggro, not typical of them, or not sleeping. We haven't mentioned drug and alcohol, but that can obviously be, you know, a bit of a sign that the wheels are falling off. So all these sorts of things might be just a little red flag, hey, something's not right. The trick, though, is with fellas, how do you actually approach that? You walk up to someone, how you going? Yeah, good. That hasn't gone anywhere. So you got to pick your time, you know, preferably just one-on-one. With guys, often rather than face-to-face, it's while you're doing something. Might be going for a drive or doing a bit of, you know, muck around with the ball or whatever, and you sort of chat on the side. You might say something like, gee, you don't really seem like you're yourself lately, or you seem like something bothering you, or it's been a pretty tough week, hasn't it? You know, so just, you got to use your common sense. And if they are concerned, if they do say, listen, yeah, I'm having a pretty hard time, say, look, there's a lot of help out there. Maybe go to Beyond Blue website. Maybe go to your GP. All the GPs in Australia can do a mental health plan now, and that will entitle you to go off and see a psychologist. So there's lots of options, including the 24-hour Beyond Blue phone line, which you can ring anytime.
So, Michael, tell us about something that's happened in your life, an experience maybe. I believe you went overseas and that gave you some really incredible perspective one time.
Yeah, it did. It gave me pretty good clarity around life, I guess. I finished up at a previous job in 2017, and then I was fortunate to come across a nun that actually was a mad supporter at the time, and she was quite fanatical, and she asked me at some stage through the back end, I suppose, of my time at a previous club, about going away and working in one of the missions over in Zimbabwe. And I accepted, and I guess it just worked out in the timing that I spent 2 weeks over there with obviously the people over there, and you know the scenes and the people. I could not believe how happy they were and how little they had. They were basically sitting around waiting for a little bit of food or just some water. It could have gone for 2 weeks prior to getting either of those things. So they just looked after each other and survived. So I guess the big thing I got out of that was the gratitude of the things that we actually have around us. And I think that plays a big part in mental health, is that, you know, you've got to realise how lucky we are in what we have. And that for all young men, that, you know, as a leader, you've got to make sure that you're telling these stories so kids understand how special it is that you can live in our environment. Because it does. There are different pressures in the sporting environment, but it's nothing compared to what I saw when I was overseas.
It's your perspective, like your sense of perspective. And
yeah,
Todd, you were saying about nature before. Just some practical examples. Like, it's all very well to say, let's get out in nature, but what would you actually say, like, to ground yourself, to reframe, to get that perspective pretty simply? How would you recommend you do it?
When we were kids, we'd go out and play footy or play whatever sport with no shoes on. So, like, that's really simple, is to just take your shoes off and go for a walk, and whether that's on the grass, the sand, dirt, whatever it may be. But we're surrounded by really beautiful landscapes, so why don't you just go for a run, go 10 minutes one way, 10 minutes back the other, and see how you feel, instead of being cooped up in a gym. Like, we've always got an option to sort of keep active and get out there and do something for ourselves in nature.
Chris, we heard Grant talking about, you know, broaching conversations. If you, given your experiences, if you've noticed or notice a player who's maybe a bit off, teammate, even just a friend at work, how would you go about sort of broaching that combo.
Yeah, I think as Grant said, I think you got to just get in that casual conversation with them. You have to make sure that they feel comfortable to open up to you. So, I mean, it has, being a leader here at the club, there actually has been a number of times where I've had to go up and ask one of the players if they're all right. And for me personally, it's just first of all saying, "Hey mate, how are you travelling? You're right." And as most guys do, initially, "No, I'm all good, mate, all good." But for me, then I sort of try to follow up on that. So, I'd go later that day or the next day and say, "Mate, look, just noticed you've been a bit down. Just let you know if you ever need a chat, I'm here for you." So for me, it's just letting them know that you are there.
Yeah.
When they feel ready to be able to talk and open up, they know you're there to talk to them. And I've had experiences where players have not come to me and not spoken, but knowing I'm there. And other times when they actually have a day later or later that day comes that, "Oh, actually, mate, yeah, look, I'm struggling with this and that," and they're just talking to me about it. And if it's just a conversation they just want to have with me, it might just be just getting off their chest, or I've said, "Look, I think you should go speak to this person. They might be able to help you more, or it might be a specific problem that I can direct them, look, this is the person you've got to go speak to." So I think just letting them understand that you're there for them, you're not going to judge them, you're just there that they can feel they can talk to you at any stage. I think having them know that allows them to, I suppose, feel comfortable in talking to you if and when they're ready.
Grant, probably doesn't surprise you if a seed might be planted by someone and then it's actually, there's a bit of a time lapse before the conversation actually takes off.
Absolutely. I mean, I reckon the players would be lucky to come and chat to someone like Chris. Obviously, it's just, he's right on it. And I think the thing that's worth remembering is for a lot of guys, they're actually quite isolated. I work as a GP as well. And I'm always surprised they don't generally have as sort of rich networks as the girls, especially if they've had a relationship breakup or something happen. So then if they know, he said I can give him a call anytime, you just leave that door open. That's gold. That's worth a lot. So, I think that's a great approach.
So just to wrap it up, I think we've talked a lot about sort of anecdotal and incidental ways that we sort of think and talk about mental health. What about, like, with the Wests Tigers? What do you sort of actively do? And I'm talking to this triangle here to make sure you're checking in, to routinely sort of be asking the questions rather than just relying on, Chris's radar or Michael's that someone's a bit off. Like, what do you actually do here to really prioritise it?
Yeah, I really encourage our senior players and our players to really have the conversations. I call them genuine conversations around where you're at every single day. I mean, one thing that I always look at is when a player walks in the door. You can see by how they walk in the door whether or not they're ready to go. It's quite easy to see these sorts of things when you've been around a lot of players over a long period of time, and that you get a bit of a regular habit of how they are as a person. And it might be that they come in jovial, but it might be that one day that you just notice something that might be an issue. So go and ask, go and talk.
We've got a pretty strong leadership group, so there's a number of guys there that actively letting the younger boys know that we're here to be able to talk to if need be. And I think just even for us older boys, by in front of the group showing that putting your hand up when you are mentally all there when you are struggling. And so I think it shows the other younger guys that it's okay to ask for help, and you're not always going to be feeling the best, but that's why you've got a team around you to support you. So that's about making sure you use that support when you need it.
And Todd, just to round it out, I think even a club just literally associating itself with Beyond Blue, that's a really powerful statement, isn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, just supporting a cause like that, and also, I mean, any mental health cause that we can support across the country is great. Across all codes, we should be doing that. It's great that Wests Tigers have taken the first foot forward into do it, I guess, for the NRL, and hopefully there's more to come.
Grant, would you like to have the final word?
Final word. Well, really, I mean, it's just so insightful to hear how these guys are thinking about things. And we know that, the culture of a club gets set from the top.
Yeah.
And you're just sending a really powerful message from your sleeve to what you're saying, that this is a really important issue and that we're taking it seriously. So I think it's great.
Thank you all so much.